We're live from New Delhi. You're watching T20 NewsNight, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Kurana, coming up in the next hour. Massive explosions in Beirut as Israel unleashes new air raids over Lebanon. Hezbollah leader's potential successor unreachable. French President Macron calls for ceasefire, halt to arms supply. Netanyahu terms it shameful, says will win war without their support. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar denies Chinese incursion in northeast Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh, asserts robust patrolling along line of actual control. Maldives President Mohammad Muizzi to arrive in Delhi on his first bilateral visit to India, talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday. And in cricket, in the ICC Women's T20 World Cup, India to take on arch rival Pakistan in the crucial match in Dubai on Sunday. Well, on to the details now. In Israel, vowed to keep fighting Hezbollah until victory. Its forces are trying all efforts to making the Lebanon-based outfit unable to function. The Israeli Defense Forces are identifying Hezbollah's hideouts inside tunnels in Lebanon and sealing the tunnels that look into proper habitat and storage area. Releasing a video of its anti-Hezbollah operations, the Israel Defense Force on Saturday claimed they destroyed 250 meters of terror infrastructure and captured equipments used in attacks on Israel from Lebanon's side. With the first anniversary of the October 7th Hamas attack approaching, Israeli forces continue ground operations inside Lebanon against the Hezbollah. And huge explosions rocked the Lebanese capital Beirut's southern suburbs overnight, shaking the ground and sending plumes of smoke into the skyline. Residents in Beirut said the bombardment was so intense that car alarms went off and buildings shook as Israeli fighter jets pounded the densely populated outskirts, including the international airport's perimeter. The attack comes in retaliation for Iran's attack. Video footage shows a fireball rising above Lebanon's capital overnight, following another strike on the city, with reports suggesting it may have hit a petrol station. The Israeli army said it was currently striking terror targets belonging to the Hezbollah terrorist organization in the area of Beirut in a statement on its Telegram channel. And a red alert has been issued in Israel, and the Iron Dome was activated to thwart missile attacks over its cities. Several explosions were also heard over northern Israel early on Sunday. Several flashes reflected on the buildings below as interceptors were deployed. Israel has begun an intense retaliatory bombing campaign in Lebanon and sent troops across the border in recent weeks after nearly a year of exchanging fire with Hezbollah. Fighting had previously been mostly limited to the Israel-Lebanon border area, taking place in parallel to Israel's year-old conflict in Gaza against Hamas. Israel says it aims to allow the safe return of tens of thousands of citizens to their homes in northern Israel, bombarded by Hezbollah since October 8 last year. The Israeli attacks have eliminated much of Hezbollah's senior military leadership, including Secretary General Nasrallah, in an air attack on the September 27th. And meanwhile, the Israeli military on Saturday announced changes to its defensive guidelines in several areas, including in some communities north of Tel Aviv near the Gaza Strip and parts of the occupied West Bank. The changes allow gatherings of up to 2,000 people, up from 1,000. The IDF spokesperson also said that Israel will retaliate against Iran for the missile attack launched by Tehran when the time is right.
According to the situation assessment that was held today, it has been decided to update instruction of the home front so that gatherings are allowed of up to 2,000 people from the Carmel area to the south will all be affected. The way in which we respond to this disgraceful attack will be in the manner, at the location and the timing which we decide according to the political leadership's instructions.
Meanwhile, along with easing of some of the defense guidelines, Israel remains on alert. The country has deployed its forces on alert ahead of the anniversary of Hamas' October 7th attack. The alert came with Israel engaging in an intensifying war with the Hezbollah, which Army Chief Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi said would be hit without concession or respite. Ahead of Monday's grim anniversary, military spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari said at a televised briefing that Israeli forces are prepared with increased forces in anticipation for this day where there could be attacks on the home front. Well, a day before anniversary of October 7 terror attack on Israel by Hamas, French President Emmanuel Macron has called for a ceasefire as whereabouts of many hostages are still not known and they are in Hamas's captivity. Macron was addressing International Organization of the Francophonie. He said that while France supports Israel's security and have special thought for victims and hostages to make the ceasefire effective, there must be halt to arms sale to those who are using them in Gaza.
When we call for ceasefire, this is the case for Gaza. This was also the case for Lebanon last week. Well, we try not to call for a ceasefire while continuing to deliver weapons of war. And I think it's just consistency. And so I confirm to you that for my part, I think that at the moment, the ceasefire in Gaza is a priority to allow humanitarian action to be resumed at full capacity and also to allow for a political solution which alone will ensure peace and security for all, with the two-state solution at play. And as for Lebanon, we also call for a ceasefire.
Well, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reacted sharply to Macron's demand for halt to arms supply, saying that the French president's statement ignores enormity of terror strike that had taken place in Israel last year.
As Israel fights the forces of barbarism led by Iran, all civilized countries should be standing firmly by Israel's side. Yet President Macron and some other Western leaders are now calling for an arms embargo against Israel. Shame on them. Is Iran imposing an arms embargo on Hezbollah, on the Houthis, on Hamas, and on its other proxies? Of course not. The axis of terror stands together. But countries who supposedly oppose this terror axis call for an arms embargo on Israel. What a disgrace. Well, let me tell you this. Israel will win with or without their support.
Well, after Israeli PM Netanyahu dubbed French President Macron's arms embargo call, the French president's office has stressed that France is Israel's steadfast friend, as per the Times of Israel on Sunday. According to the Times of Israel, the LSE stressed that Macron supports Israel's security and demonstrates it. Macron's office stated that France mobilized its military this week during Iran's missile attack, as it did in April. Moreover, French President Emmanuel Macron has announced that France will organize an international conference this month. The international conference is aimed at raising humanitarian aid for Lebanon and strengthen security in the southern part of the country. Speaking after a meeting of French-speaking countries in Paris, French President Emmanuel Macron emphasized his support for the international community and support the Lebanese armed forces boost security. And thousands of Israelis took to the streets once again on Saturday night, calling for a deal to secure the release of those held captive by Hamas in Gaza. However, in much smaller numbers this week to allow Home Front Command instructions limiting gatherings in light of changing wartime conditions. At least 2,000 protesters gathered in front of Begin Gate at the Kiryat military base in Tel Aviv, preceded by a weekly press conference by some hostages' family members. Meanwhile, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has fiercely maintained that he is committed to releasing the hostages, blaming Hamas for rejecting repeated proposals. And in the latest from Lebanon, the U.S. State Department has reportedly organized about 145 passengers on 2 flights out of Lebanon, where Israel has been pounding Hezbollah targets in retaliation to Iran's attack in recent days. Each of the flights from Beirut to Istanbul, Turkey, could carry 300 passengers for a total capacity of 600 as per a U.S. State Department spokesperson. The State Department has advised Americans since late September to depart Lebanon, while commercial options still remain available, and warned those who stay to be prepared to shelter in place should the situation deteriorate further. Moreover, the UN Secretary General denounced Hamas and called for an immediate end to the shocking violence and bloodshed in Gaza and Lebanon in a statement on Saturday ahead of the anniversary of Hamas's October 7th attack. Monday marks 1 year since the devastating assault on Israel that sparked the ongoing crisis in Gaza, with Lebanon now also pulled into the fray and world leaders warning of a potential all-out regional crisis. While demanding the hostages' immediate and unconditional release, Guterres also implored Hamas to allow the hostages to be visited by Red Cross personnel. Also, at least 18 people were killed and dozens of others were injured in Israel's retaliatory airstrike on a Gaza mosque. Israel's attack comes as part of its operation against terror group Hamas and the mission to neutralize all its centers in Gaza. Early on Sunday, a mosque near the Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir al-Balaha in the central Gaza Strip became one of the targets as the war between Israel and Hamas approaches its first anniversary. And for more, we have Shubhendu joining us. Well, Shubhendu, good morning. First question to you. Amidst Saturday night strikes, if we talk about, which were among the most intense till now, Israeli forces continue ground incursion into Lebanon. And on the other hand, a red alert has been issued in Israel as the Iron Dome was also triggered there. Tit for tat going on. Where do we see all this going?
Absolutely, Lipakshi. Good morning. Yes, it's just going to be 1 day, and it's going to be the first anniversary of this conflict that has been raging in West Asia. October 7th, remember, the attack by the Hamas on Israeli civilians was the beginning of the conflict, really. And almost a year it's going to be, and the conflict seems to be heading towards the direction of escalation and expansion, and that is a cause of worry for all the regional players and also for leaders of international politics. And that is also the concern that we see playing out as far as the developments between Israel and Lebanon is concerned. You mentioned rightly the escalation is taking place as far as the Israel's incursion into Lebanon is concerned. The Iron Dome has been activated really almost all the time. There is a threat that is posed continuously from the side of the Hezbollah, from Hamas in Gaza, and now Iran has also activated its own aggression towards Israel, of course, after those 200 ballistic missiles that were launched by Iran earlier this week. There has been no step up. In fact, the world powers are on a standby to see the manner in which Israel is likely to respond to the Iran's escalation. Israel has said that they will, in fact, respond and reply to that aggression at a time and place of their choosing. But the manner in which it's going to play out, it is going to be the critical infrastructure, oil and nuclear sites is something that we'll have to wait and watch. But for now, yes, escalation and expansion appears to be the character of this conflict, which sees no signs of dying down.
Also, Shubhendu, Macron called for an immediate ceasefire in Lebanon as well as in Gaza. Meanwhile, Netanyahu dubbed Macron's call for arms embargo against Israel a shame, as he said that axis of terror stands together, and it was not happening here. Do you see an international shift in the light of Israel's response and attacks?
It is an important statement by an international leader of repute, Emmanuel Macron, President of France, but I wouldn't really call it a great shift in the international perspective on the manner in which this conflict is headed. Yes, calls for ceasefire has been going on. Calls for ceasefire has been going on by Israel's most powerful ally, United States, but it hasn't really materialized on the ground. Also, we have to see that France is not the major weapon supply. 70% of the weapons that Israel is using for its defense and offensive are being supplied by United States. So it is the manner in which United States takes a perspective, takes a stand on the ongoing conflict that will have a greater bearing. But yes, in terms of principle, what Emmanuel Macron says is significant. He, President of France, says that you cannot be calling for a ceasefire and peace in the region at the same time supplying, pumping in more weapons into the region. In that sense, he's also talking about the complexity of the manner in which Israel's allies and other parts are engaged in this conflict. But its bearing on stopping the real conflict, taking it towards ceasefire, may not have that kind of an impact that perhaps United States and its influence could have. So in that sense, what's coming out of France, the statements that are coming out from there, would be significant in principle, but not so much practically. And Israeli leader Netanyahu, of course, has dismissed France's statement, saying that the fight is not just against an adversary, but the whole ecosystem of terrorism.
All right, Shubhendu, very briefly, Israel eased some of its defense guidelines, but has deployed its forces on alert on the other hand ahead of the October 7th anniversary. Also, Blinken called the Qatari, Saudi and French foreign ministers to discuss the evolving situations in the Middle East. Now, with international pressure on the rise, what can be expected here?
Well, absolutely. You see, it's symbolically very significant, the first anniversary of the conflict. Israel also must, to its own people, at least be able to say that it has made important headway in the conflict. And one of the ways of doing that would be easing the restrictions that is being laid on its own people, although the risk remains high, as Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu himself has said that the number of direct adversaries has increased. In fact, he puts the number to 7, including Houthis and Iran as a nation.
Right.
In that sense, the risk is high, but it is going to be symbolically significant to say that people can perhaps relax a little. The gathering size has been increased from earlier restricted 1,000 to 2,000 now. How much of a bearing will that have? If there is another attack from the outside, perhaps these restrictions could be taken back. And the point that you mentioned about Blinken's meeting of world leaders, we see that's an ongoing effort to really find ways to achieve a ceasefire. It hasn't achieved much results. It is coming at a very critical time when, as I mentioned, world powers are on a standby to see how Israel responds to earlier attack by Iran. In that sense, very crucial what comes out of these engagements.
Right, Shubhendu, thank you so much for all those details. And still to come on DD India News Hour. We'll give you updates from campaign trail of US presidential polls as Trump holds rally at the site of July assassination attempt. Amid fears of another major storm in the U.S. state after Helene, Florida's governor declared a state of emergency. And Haiti PM embarks on a trip to Kenya and UAE for support after gang massacre.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepak Kurana, and moving on are some updates from campaign trail of U.S. presidential polls now. Republican U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump made a bold return to the Butler Farm showgrounds in Pennsylvania on Saturday, where he survived an assassination attempt in July. During his rally, Trump called the gunman a vicious monster and declared that he would never quit. Trump lashed out at his political opponents, calling them the enemy within, who had pushed to indict him and who knows, maybe even try to kill me. Trump's much-hyped return to Butler, Pennsylvania, came exactly 1 month before the November 5th presidential election. Earlier, Donald Trump campaigned in North Carolina on Friday for the 4th time in a month as the Republican presidential candidate tries to firm up support in a state.
Exactly 12 weeks ago this evening on this very ground, a cold-blooded assassin aimed to silence me and to silence the greatest movement, MAGA. For 16 harrowing seconds during the gunfire, time stopped as this vicious monster unleashed pure evil from his sniper's perch, not so far away. But by the hand of Providence and the grace of God, that villain did not succeed in his goal.
Well, Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance also joined Donald Trump in his campaign in Pennsylvania on Saturday and addressed Trump's campaign messaging on abortion.
To make Georgia's laws, California to make California's laws, and to respect the fact that we kind of have a messy democracy where sometimes different states are going to make different determinations on these issues.
Well, Vice President Kamala Harris assessed the damage from Hurricane Helene in Charlotte, North Carolina on Saturday. Harris attended a meeting with emergency management officials and talked to members of the armed forces. She also visited a donation center where she helped fill bags with toiletries and spoke to local residents. Her visit comes a day after her Republican rival Donald Trump campaigned in Fayetteville, home to a large military community in North Carolina.
The work that is happening here and that continues really is the best of what we can do to bring federal, state, and local resources together in a way that is coordinated with one purpose and one purpose only, which is bringing relief, support, and help to the people who are most in need and desperate for help and desperate to be seen and heard. So I came here to find out what's going on the ground, to find out what more we can do in terms of federal aid, what we're giving to Mecklenburg County, in terms of disaster relief, the work that we are doing, which is $100 million to assist with the rebuilding of Interstate 40.
Well, as Hurricane Helene leaves a trail of destruction, Florida's governor declared a state of emergency on Saturday as forecasters warned that the U.S. state could be slammed by another major storm next week. The National Weather Department said the tropical storm Milton, currently churning in the western Gulf of Mexico, were forecasted to strengthen into a major hurricane as it moves towards Florida into midweek next week. Depending on its path, Milton could potentially bring fresh havoc to areas of Florida's west coast still recovering from Helene. And Haitian Prime Minister Gary Conille on Saturday embarked on a trip to the United Arab Emirates and Kenya to seek security assistance following one of the deadliest gang attacks in the Caribbean nation. Haiti is reeling after members of the Grand Griffe gang stormed through the town of Pont-Sonde in the western Artibonite region early on October 3rd. That caused death of at least 70 people, forcing over 6,000 residents to flee. Last week, the UN Security Council authorized for another year an international security force that is intended to help local police fight gangs and provide law and order. Prime Minister of Haiti said that the aim of his visit to Kenya is to go to hold talks with President Ruto to speed up the deployment of Kenyan troops to support the national police force.
One of the aims of this trip is to go to Kenya to talk to President William Ruto about speeding up the deployment of Kenyan troops as quickly as possible to continue supporting the national police force.
Well, now updates on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Ukrainian forces said they have shot down a Russian fighter plane on Saturday, while Russia claimed it has made some gains in Ukraine's east. The Russian bomber was shot down near the city of Kostiantynivka in the Donetsk province, said Ukrainian force. According to local authorities, there were no reported casualties, while teams were on the ground. A strike hit a nearby residential area, resulting in several other houses being damaged. On the other hand, Russia's defense ministry claimed that it had taken control of the village of Zelane Druhe. Separately, the defense ministry said Russia had downed 10 Ukrainian drones overnight over its Belgorod, Voronezh and Kursk regions, which border Ukraine. Also, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Saturday he would attend an international meeting to discuss military support for Ukraine to be held in Germany next week. The summit, scheduled for October 12th, will be the first to take place at the leadership level, bringing together more than 50 of Ukraine's allies, including US President Joe Biden. The gathering is expected to address pressing issues surrounding military aid to Ukraine as it continues its defense against Russia's advancing forces. Zelensky on social media stated that he would present clear, concrete steps towards a just end of the war, adding that Russia could be stopped by the determination of our partners and the strengthening of Ukraine. While China and North Korea mark 75 years of ties with vows of cooperation, leaders of China and North Korea on Sunday traded a vow of enhanced bilateral cooperation on the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries. China is by far North Korea's largest trading partner, as the two countries share a history going back to Beijing's support of Pyongyang during the 1950-1953 Korean War. Supreme Leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, has pledged to steadily strive and develop a friendly and cooperative relation between the DPRK and China as required by the new era. And the new British government's first international investment summit will feature senior executives from companies including Google, Waved and Brookfield Asset Management. The summit, which will commence from October 14th, aims to provide an opportunity for the government to establish enduring partnerships with businesses to boost investment in the UK and to give investors the certainty and confidence they need to drive growth. As an initiative, the UK government has announced to invest $28 billion for carbon capture projects. And as record migration levels surge across the United States, teachers are confronting unprecedented challenges in their classrooms, particularly language barriers. Schools in border states and urban centers are experiencing an influx of students who speak little or no English. To address these challenges, some districts across the region are implementing professional development programs focused on trauma-informed teaching practices and cultural competency. Schools are also partnering with mental health professionals to offer counseling services and support groups tailored to the needs of immigrant students and their families. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. A Royal New Zealand Navy vessel ran aground and sank off Samoa on Sunday morning. New Zealand Defence Minister Judith Collins confirmed the safety of all 75 crew and passengers. The hydrographic vessel was conducting a reef survey near the southern coast of Upolu. The Idaho wildfire continued looming over residential areas of Boise County on Sunday with thick plumes of smoke all around. Firefighting plane released water to combat the situation. The fire broke out early on Friday morning along Highway 21 in East Boise and has already burned thousands of acres in the Boise foothills. In New Mexico, the 52nd Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta kicked off on Saturday with balloons of staggering sizes dotting the skies as Mars Ascension. The massive balloons were inflated to full size, seemingly obscuring the horizon as they rose from the ground and into the air. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India's MOS Pavitra Margarita visits Grenada, marking deepening of relations between India and Latin America and the Caribbean. India to host maritime exercise Malabar 2024. And today is World Cerebral Palsy Day, recognizing the need to amplify the voices of individuals living with cerebral palsy.
India is one of the countries most affected by the impacts of climate change. So what can be the solution, and can children become a part of the solution?
We show a picture of the amla berry, for example, and discuss their nutritional value. In this way, they begin to understand the value of different fruits and vegetables, and that's when they realize why it's important to eat these things.
If we convert this 120 million ton that we see into biochar, we see about roughly about 350 million tons of CO2 emission reduction.
We can cultivate and use in a responsible way, and maybe how small-scale community enterprises could start to use it as a way to support their local economy.
Welcome back. You're watching DDTL News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and time for headlines once again. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar denies Chinese incursion in northeast Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh, asserts robust patrolling along line of actual control. Maldives President Mohammad Muizzi to arrive in Delhi on his first bilateral visit to India, talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday. And in cricket, in the ICC Women's T20 World Cup, India to take on arch rival Pakistan in the crucial match in Dubai on Sunday. And moving on, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has clearly denied reports of Chinese incursion in Arunachal Pradesh and reaffirmed India's robust patrolling of the line of actual control. The remarks by Dr. Jaishankar came while addressing an interactive session at the Conclave 2024 hosted by Pratidin Time in New Delhi. On being asked about reports of China entering the Arunachal border in recent times, Jaishankar said, in Arunachal Pradesh, we are very robust in our patrolling of the LAC.
In Arunachal Pradesh, we are very robust in our patrolling to the LAC. And I can tell you that, in terms of our patrolling in the LAC, there's been no major change in the border. Last 5-10 years, maybe even longer.
Well, Maldives President Mohammad Muizzi on Sunday will arrive here for a state visit to India from October 6th to 10th. This will be Maldives President's first bilateral visit after assuming office. He's scheduled to hold high-level meetings with India's President Draupadi Murmu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other senior leaders. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar will also call on the visiting Maldives President this evening. The discussions will focus on strengthening bilateral cooperation and further enhancing the long-standing relationship between the two nations. Earlier this year, the Maldives President had attended the swearing-in ceremony of Prime Minister Modi and the Council of Ministers at Rashtrapati Bhavan in June 9th. He also met PM Modi on the sidelines of the COP28 summit in Dubai on the 1st of December last year. Moving on, India's Minister of State for External Affairs and Textile Pabitra Margarita visit Grenada, where he received a warm welcome by the Prime Minister of Grenada, Dickon Mitchell, and Governor General of Grenada. Later, the minister also attended an event with the Indian diaspora in Grenada in engaging discussions, cultural celebrations, and a deep sense of shared heritage highlighted the strong bonds between India and Grenada. After marking his successful visit to Grenada, Union Minister Pabitra Margarita to mark a historic 3-day visit to Antigua and Barbuda. The visit underscores a deepening of relationship between India and Latin America and the Caribbean. It is expected to bolster political, economic and cultural ties and pave the way for greater collaboration with our partners in the global south. And India's Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw visited the Bengaluru Cantonment Railway Station to inspect development works. Vaishnaw announced the decision to create 2 railway lines from Bengaluru International Airport to Yelahanka.
Very happy with the progress. Today I have also reviewed the progress of the circular rail. Circular rail is going to change the entire transportation facilities of Bengaluru city, and the progress is good. DPR is progressing very well, and hopefully by end of December the DPR will be completed. Then we will take the next steps. I also inspected the railway line from Bengaluru station, Bengaluru airport to this place up to Bengaluru Cant.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. 5 people lost their lives in a fire at Mumbai's Siddharth colony in Chembur. The blaze confined to electric wiring and installations broke out on the ground floor of the G+1 structure, which housed a shop below and a residence above. Firefighters quickly responded, but the damage was extensive. Delegation of influencers and content creators from the US and Western Europe visited Garvi, Gujarat to celebrate the onset of Navratri. They immersed themselves in local culture, practicing Garba and savoring traditional Gujarati thali during their stay. Maritime exercise Malabar 2024 is scheduled to take place from October 8 to 18th, beginning with the harbour phase in Visakhapatnam. The exercise is followed by the sea phase. This year's exercise is being hosted by India and will see the participation of Australia, Japan and the United States of America. The Indian Army's Romeo Force seized a large cache of weapons and explosions in Poonch, Jammu and Kashmir. The haul recovered based on a tip-off included AK-47 and pistol rounds of Pakistani origin, along with sophisticated explosives like RCIEDs and Chinese grenades. The recovery dealt a blow to suspected terrorist activities in the region. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman appreciated the World Bank's consideration of strengthening multilateral development bank. In a recent interaction with Professor Nick Stern, Sitharaman emphasized on climate finance and technology transfer from developed countries are vital for enabling ambitious climate action. And today is World Cerebral Palsy Day. This day will once again serve as a platform to amplify the voices of individuals living with cerebral palsy. This year's scheme, Uniquely CP, celebrates the uniqueness of the cerebral palsy community, their interest, passions and identities, showing that they are not solely defined by their disability. The theme stresses that each person is special in their own way and that society must understand and embrace these unique identities. Under the leadership of the Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities, the Government of India is holding awareness campaigns across the nation. Various national institutes and regional centers under the department are hosting programs to spread awareness about cerebral palsy and empower those affected by it. These programs are aimed at highlighting the struggles of individuals living with the condition, but are an occasion to celebrate their abilities, talents and the uniqueness that transcends the challenges they face. Through the Uniquely CP theme, the day conveys a powerful message to society that individuals with cerebral palsy can achieve their goals in life with their distinct capabilities and strengths. Cerebral palsy is often misunderstood and those affected face numerous societal challenges. The aim of this day is to break these stereotypes and work towards building an inclusive society where individuals with the condition are respected for their identity and talents. The 2024 theme is a positive step towards raising awareness that a person's disability is not their entire identity. This year's World Cerebral Palsy Day will thus stand as a reminder to embrace and celebrate diversity, fostering a more inclusive world for everyone. Well, Indian Air Force all set for Grand Air Show at Chennai's Marina Beach. The event is to take place at Chennai's iconic Marina Beach, where more than 1 million people are expected to gather. The Indian Air Force is all set to enthrall the people of the city of Chennai on Sunday between 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. as part of a Grand Air Show involving 72 aircrafts. The event is to take place at Chennai's iconic Marina Beach, where more than 1 million people are expected to gather. It is after a gap of 2 decades that an air show is returning to Chennai, and the Indian Air Force has a stellar lineup for mesmerizing those at the marina. Air show is part of the Indian Air Force's 92nd year celebrations. Following the open to public air show on Sunday, a restricted access IAF Day parade will be held on Tuesday at Air Force Station, Tambaram, on the outskirts of Chennai city. Over the last 2 years, the Raising Day of India's tri-services have been held in different cities across the country. This is aimed at showcasing the valor, might and capabilities of the Indian Armed Forces, while also inspiring youngsters to take up a career in service of the nation. Notably, among the aviators that will be flying on Sunday are 2 Chennaites. A total of 72 aircraft will be taking part in the air show, and this will include fighter jets, transporter aircraft, helicopters and special aerobatic display teams and vintage aircraft. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India to take on Bangladesh in men's first T20 match in Gwalior. Shivam Dubey ruled out of series due to injury. India clinches 5 more medals, including 2 gold at Junior World Shooting Championships.
Always welcoming. The vibe of Punjab is larger than life. Warm up to grandeur that's beyond compare. And history that's dotted with tales of bravery. Smiling soul of India, where music, art, cuisine and culture comes together to create an unforgettable impression. Punjab is all set to win your hearts with its unique and colorful extravaganza.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked, we just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome to Kumarakod, Kerala, God's own country.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Khurana, on to sports news now. In the ICC Women's T20 World Cup, India will take on arch rival Pakistan in the crucial match in Dubai on Sunday. India will not only hope to win but also improve their net run rate, as the shocking defeat against New Zealand in the opening match has dented their chances of entering the semi-finals. The Harmanpreet Kaur-led squad now must win all its remaining group stage matches against Pakistan, Sri Lanka and Australia to have a realistic chance of making it to the last 4. In the past, India have overcome Pakistan 12 times in 15 encounters, but Pakistan are high on confidence after beating Sri Lanka comfortably in the first match. A comprehensive win against India will boost both their morale and net run rate. In the second match of the day, West Indies will face Scotland. Both the teams have lost their opening matches. It is a do-or-die game for the West Indies, as another defeat can rule out their chances of qualifying for the semi-finals. And for more, we have Narayan Singh joining us on this. Well, Narayan, after India's lost opening match against New Zealand and Pakistan high on confidence after beating Sri Lanka, what are the expectations from today's match?
Good morning, Ipakshi. A very important match from India's perspective, considering the fact that they lost their first match against New Zealand, and that too by a comprehensive margin of the 58 runs. And Pakistan already won their opening match. And so it is we can say that a do-or-die clash for the Indian team, because if they play the remaining matches, they can only gain maximum 6 points right now. And New Zealand has already won their one match. Australia has already won their one match, and Pakistan has already won their one match. In that context, even if the New Zealand defeats Australia, then also they can get maximum 6 points. And towards the end of the league phase, then a situation will come where Australia, New Zealand, India may have 6 points, and in that case the run rate will come into the play. And India, after losing the first match by 58 runs, they are languishing at the bottom of the points table in Group A, and their run rate is also not up to the mark. So that is the worrying factor. And here today, Indian women's team need to pull up their socks and play fantastic cricket. And in the last match, we saw after the opening order was not able to do well. And we can say that our star batsmen, especially the Shefali Verma, if she strike the right course, if she can maintain the balance between striking capabilities and the consistency, and Harmanpreet Kaur to have to come to the party to score good runs for the, especially depends upon the top order, because in the last match the top order faltered and it exposed the middle order. In that scenario, it's an important match for India, a do or die clash for the India to be there in the contention for the knockout stages of the tournament.
Right, Narayan. Also, if we talk about the second match today, West Indies will face Scotland, and both the teams have lost their opening matches. Also a do-or-die game for the West Indies there.
Definitely, both the team had lost their opening matches, and in that context, they have to be at their par level. And we know that the level of competition in the Women's World Cup is up to the mark, and the best teams. And we saw in the weekends the playoff, where also there were 10 teams and 2 teams booked their berth in the main round, and the 10 teams are playing. And we can say that if we talk about the other group, that is already, we can say that it's also heading towards we can say that defining who will be there in the knockout stages of the tournament. So all in all, an important match for both the teams, and they both will try to bring their A game, considering the fact that even here a single mistake can lost knockout berth to them.
Right, and also if we talk about the first match, in the past India have overcome Pakistan 12 times out of the 15. What are the chances of it making to the last 4?
If you talk about the Indian team, their performance, the thing is that they are a gem of a players. They have a well-oiled machine. At the top of the order, we have Shefali Verma. We know that how destructive batsman she is, but already we have mentioned that she needs to create a balance between his aggressive batting style and the consistency. If she maintains that thing, definitely I think it's a positive thing for the Indian campaign also. And if we talk about Harman, he's one of the veteran of the game, and she had scored too many runs. But they need to learn from the mistakes of the past. We know that India has many close encounters in the market tournament. We can say the last time they lost in the semi-finals, and before that in 2020, they were in the finals against Australia and they lost. So that close margins and the mental fragility towards the crucial juncture of the match, they need to address those issues. And it's not done and dusted for the India. 3 matches are remaining. They need to play up to the expectation. And if you talk about the bowling department, Renuka Singh in the pace department is a fantastic bowler. Richa Ghosh is there. So all in all, a balanced team, but need to play to their potential and stick to the plans, and especially a lot will depend upon the top order, how they plays. So all in all, we can say that India is capable to beat any team in the world. We also saw that they have in the past defeated teams like Australia, who were the 6-time world champions. But all in all, it all will depend how they play on that day, how they strategize their things, and how they handle the pressure. That is the most important thing.
Right, and also if we talk about yesterday's match, England edged out Bangladesh by 21 runs. What do you have to say about that?
Definitely, we know that England is one of the fantastic team of the tournament. They have good players, and we can say that they have the chances in the tournament too. But Bangladesh, we know that they are the dark horses of the tournament. And all in all, what kind of they have cricket played so far, England. They have many star players, and in the past also they have done exceptionally well still, but they are missing that coveted trophy. So they will also try to bring glory, will bring the coveted ICC Women's T20 World Cup trophy. All in all, it's going to be one of the fantastic tournaments so far in the history of the T20 World Cups in the women category, considering the fact that ICC is trying to bring the women's game as far as the men's game. And we can say a lot of technology has been induced so that it can be taken at the different level. 28 camera setup is there for each and every match, and a smart replay system is there so that the umpiring margins, umpiring errors can be removed. So all in all, it's going to be a fantastic tournament. England, we know that a good side, and hopefully they will play to the potential. And we are hoping that in the coming tournaments, in the coming matches, all will try to play their best game.
All right, all eyes on today's match so far right now. Okay, thank you so much, Narayan, for all those details. And England edged out Bangladesh by 21 runs to make a winning start at the Women's T20 World Cup in Sharjah. On Saturday, the Heather Knight-led side successfully defended a below-par target of 118 runs as England's four-pronged spin attack restricted Bangladesh to 97 for the loss of 7 wickets to win the low-scoring thriller. Lindsay Smith was the standout bowler for England, taking 2 wickets for 11 runs from her 4 overs, while Subhana Mosque top-scored with 44 for Bangladesh. And India and Bangladesh will square off in the first men's T20 international of the 3-match series in Gwalior on Sunday. India will hope to continue its winning streak following their 2-0 win in the recently concluded Test series. India's stars who were part of the Test series have been rested. However, the men in blue have a star-studded lineup consisting of Captain Suryakumar Yadav, Hardik Pandya, Sanju Samson, Arshdeep Singh and others. On the other hand, Bangladesh skipper Najmul Hussain Shanto promised to play aggressive brand of cricket. Overall, India and Bangladesh have played 14 T20 international matches against each other. India have won 13 of them. International cricket will return to Gwalior after 14 years and fans can expect a run feast in the first match. An Indian all-rounder Shivam Dube has been ruled out of the upcoming 3-match T20 international series against Bangladesh. According to the Indian Cricket Board, BCCI, Dube will miss the 3-game rubber owing to his back injury. However, BCCI has named young Mumbai Indians batter Tilak Verma as Dube's replacement. Tilak will join the team ahead of the first T20 international in Gwalior on Sunday. And India's medal tally at the Junior World Shooting Championships swelled to 21 after pistol shooters added 5 more medals in 25-meter standard pistol events in Lima, capital Peru. Devanshu and Suraj Sharma accounted for gold medals in the men's and women category. In fact, India swept the podium in the women's 25-meter standard pistol event with Devanshi, Parisha Gupta and Manvi Jain taking the first 3 positions. India led the medal tally with 21 medals, which includes 13 gold, 2 silver and 6 bronze. Over 560 shooters from 51 countries are competing at the championship. And Coco Gauff has set up a showdown with Carolina Muchova in the China Open final on Sunday. The American beat Spain's Paula Badosa 4-6, 6-4, 6-2 to a thrilling semi-final. Gauff, who has recently struggled in months, racked up 11 double faults and also converted just 6 of 20 break points, but battled back to down the Spaniard. Last year's US Open champion is chasing a second title of the year. Her only title of the year came in Auckland in January. In another semi-final match, the 20-year-old Muchova subdued Olympic champion Zheng Qinwen in straight sets 6-3, 6-4. The Czech is the lowest-ranked player to reach the Beijing final since the tournament began in 2004. In bilateral contest, Gauff has won both their previous matches, most recently in the US Open semi-finals last year. Well, more than 400 years ago, literary legend William Shakespeare said that music can raise out the written troubles of the brain, and people now are turning to music as a way to deal with the stresses of modern digital-driven life. Keeping the electrifying vibes of the weekend alive, Argentines swayed and danced as the Beatles, rock musician Paul McCartney dazzled the stage amid flashing blue lights and a zealous audience. Drums rolled and the energy could be seen all over the show venue. Paul McCartney mesmerized his fans as he performed hits like Can't Buy Me Love and Junior's Farm. Take a listen. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.